Hello, welcome everyone to today's webinar, Franchising 101. My name is Christina Gonzalez. I hope you all had a great weekend. I just want to start off by saying that this webinar is being recorded. The presentation and the link to the recording will be emailed to you. If you have any questions, please type them in the chat. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. And before we get started, we would just like to take a quick poll. Let me go ahead and launch that. All right, so we have 5 questions here. We would like to know, are you currently in business? Are you considering buying a franchise? Are you considering taking your business to a higher level and becoming a franchisor? Do you have a franchise in mind? And are you considering a service or a product franchise? I'll give you a few more seconds here. Okay, thank you for everyone that took that poll. Let me share the results for everyone. So are you currently in business? We have 67% of you are in business and 67% of you are considering buying a franchise. 67% of you want to take your business to a higher level and become a franchisor. Do you have a franchise in mind? 67% of you said no. And are you considering a service or a product? 67% of you are considering a product franchise. Excellent information. Thank you. And on the next slide, I would like to present today's facilitator, Ali Nikmanish. He is a SCORE certified subject matter expert, executive VP of franchise company. He's a multi-unit business owner and a business and franchise consultant. Ali, thank you so much for your time today, and it is all yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. We go to the next slide. Thank you, Christina, for putting up with me on forwarding these slides as per your request. Hello, everybody. Thanks for attending this session of the SCORE on franchising. Just to give you a real quick rundown, I have been a franchisee before, and now I'm a franchisor. I work for a franchise company with multiple locations. Also have my own small concept, multi-unit concept here in Fresno area, and a consulting business that does business and franchise consulting. Thank you, and we'll go to the next slide. The following slides are for illustration purposes only. Please consult an attorney regarding the subject matter. Depend on the following slides as additional resource only. So this is our SCORE disclaimer. So next slide, please. So what we're going to discuss today is various ownership options, pros and cons of franchising. How does franchising work? Who regulates franchising? And some of the documents that are involved with franchising. And then our U.S. Patent Office registration, various entity types, and the legal challenges present in franchising business model. Next slide, please. So the business ownership options, there's several different types. You can start a business from scratch. You can buy a franchise, or you can buy an existing business. By the way, just for information purposes, this is not a sales presentation in any way, shape, or form. This is a SCORE event trying to teach franchising business model. Thank you. Next slide. So there is pros and cons in franchising. So let's talk about the advantages. Advantages of franchising is the recognition of the name. If it's a McDonald's, a Burger King, Hilton, hotels, what have you, they're all recognized names. The business model is proven. There is the systems and training support. Generally speaking, there is much lower failure rates in franchising than in startups. There is operating processes that are in place, financing options through the banks. The banks are more familiar and more willing to loan out to franchise companies than they do to startups. And then there is the franchise family that you will belong to as a means of counting on others for advice and consultation. Some of the disadvantages of franchising is the operating system is structured, so there is no getting around to it. There is territory restrictions. That means you can only do business in the territory that they allow you to do business in. You have to sell at all pre-approved items. You have payments to make to the franchisor, and you have obligations in terms of contracts in an ongoing basis. So those are the disadvantages of being a franchisee, buying a franchise. Next slide, please. Franchising facts, there is over 3,800 different franchise companies with 90 different industries, and there is over 900,000 operating units, and the different industries are illustrated here on this slide. By the way, one of the up-and-coming franchise systems or business models are senior care and child care. So we want to make sure we point that out. Next slide. So what you're going to take away is Oxford Economists performed the first of its kind assessment of value of franchise business model to entrepreneurs and employees and local communities. Franchises offer better pay. There is more diverse folks that are involved with franchising. It's an engine for growth and jobs. Expands opportunities for women, people of color, and disadvantaged folks in our society, and our good neighbors in the communities. Next slide. So what is franchising? So franchising is when you purchase the right to use somebody else's trademark for your operations. You are an independent business operator. You operate under certain trademark rights for a number of years, generally from 5 to 30 years, depending on your agreement. It's a marketing system. It's a method of distribution of goods and services to the public. Franchisor-franchisee relations is a joint commitment to promote market share. By the way, the franchisor is the one that holds the trademark and licenses the individual to do business, and franchisee is the actual owner of the business that operates that business. So that's the differentiation between the two. The owner mentality, franchisee's ability to change the system is very limited. And the only way you can change the system is if the franchisor accepts the changes that you recommend. And franchising, by its practice, is an alternative form to acquire capital. So if you've got a business, existing business, and you want to multiply it, the fastest way to do that is to become a franchisor, and your business will multiply. Next slide, please. Some of the elements in franchising is long-term commitment that you're going to make contractually. There is a larger scale research and development, marketing. You're going to get management support and guidance. As we mentioned, very little risk, improved evaluation because it's a franchise. You give up most of the control over business operations as a franchisee because the franchisor determines the systems that you will use to operate your business. But you will remain in control of your human resource management. If you're a non-compliant franchisee, you may lose your business through early termination or by non-renewal by the franchisor, and state and federal laws apply to all of this. Next slide. So let's talk about who regulates franchising. Basically, three different government agencies, and one is not an agency. So it's Federal Trade Commission. There is CDFPI, which is California Department of Financial Protection and Innovation. And NASA, this is not the NASA that sends jets up to the stars up there. This is North American Securities Administrators Association. So these three agencies pretty much govern franchising in our country. Next slide, please. And there is contracts involved. Various contracts involved are what's called the FDD, the Franchise Disclosure Document. There is through 23 what's called referred to as items within that FDD, and there is exhibits. There is the franchise agreement, that's an actual contract. There is other contracts involved, and there is a notice period, which means from the time you get your contract, minimally 16 days, where you have at least 16 days to review the contract before the franchisor can have contact back with you. These are kind of pretty sensitive items we are talking about. So if you have specific questions, put it in the question chat box and we will answer it. Next slide, please. So what is an FDD? Instead of me going through the list, so as I said, there is what's referred to as items in the FDD, the franchise disclosure documents, and they involve all the information about the franchisor and their executives. If there is litigation, there is court proceedings, the fees that are involved. Next slide. And this next two slides just illustrate the various items that are in the FDD. For example, the franchisee obligation, the franchisor assistance, whether they give you territories, obligation. Some franchisors require you to actually participate in the operation of the restaurant or business that you franchise. So next slide. Same thing with this. These are still items that are in the FDD. There is restrictions, what you can, services you can perform. For example, if you've got a senior care facility, so you cannot offer childcare at the same facility, for example. So those are the restrictions that the franchisor will put on it. Then there is the financial statements and the contracts. All of these are items in the FDD, and there is 23 of those. No matter whom you buy a franchise from, there is a franchise disclosure document that includes 23 items in it, and those are listed on these slides for your review. Next slide, please. And then there is fees. You pay an initial franchise fee. They vary from $5,000 to $50,000, $60,000, sometimes more. Royalty percentages of your monthly sales, they vary as well. The same thing with advertising. Those fees vary. And then there is other fees involved that you pay the franchisor to provide supports to you. Next item. So before you set to actually consider and purchase a franchise, do a self-assessment. Are you really a good student and a good follower of systems? Because if you're not a follower of systems, you're not going to be a real happy franchisee. Because franchises have systems and they expect that you follow it. So that self-assessment really is going to become the key component of your decision. Screening the franchisor, thoroughly vet out the franchisor, how they deal with their franchisees, what their requirements are, and ensure that you actually are willing and able to meet those requirements. Legally speaking, the franchise codes, the disclosures are all legally binding. So once you enter into a contract, obviously we all know contracts are enforceable. So you want to make sure you really educate yourself in various contracts that are involved in franchising before you actually sign one. Then there is the existing franchisees whom you can contact to learn more about the franchisor and their practices. So we ask that you thoroughly go through these lists and make sure you familiarize yourself with it and you're comfortable with the way you assess yourself and the franchisor before proceeding. Next slide, please. There is a thing called unintended franchise, and unfortunately, that's when there is a brand that's a moms and pops. Let's say it starts, and then they decide to get together with their cousin or their friend, and they open up another one, and the owners are the same, the products are the same, the advertising is the same, and the original owner ends up getting fees because their friend is using their name. So they pay monthly fees to the original owner. And unfortunately, this will begin to create an unintended franchise, which then you have got the state and federal regulators that come after you because you haven't actually registered your business as a franchise. Again, we'd be happy to answer any questions relating to this subject of unintended franchise. Next slide, please. So for those of you that might want to be thinking about franchising your business, here's some ideas. You got to prepare a business plan, interview and hire a knowledgeable franchise consultant, franchise attorney, and a CPA. Seek out professionals, and in your business plan, determine exactly what it is you want to franchise, who will be your franchisee, what requirements will you have, your company's infrastructure, and all the items relevant to the franchise system that you want to set up so that you have a workable business model that you can franchise and sell to another concept. Very important slide here. So review it and put your questions down that we can answer. Next slide, please. The USPO is the United States Patent Office, and the United States and California trademarks are requirements if you're going to do, if you're going to turn your franchise into a franchise company, if you're going to turn your business into a franchise company, you got to make sure you have a name that is registered and it's totally available for California and US. And then you got to make sure that you register that name, securing it with the trademark offices both in US and the state of California or any state that you might be in. Next. The entities that you can set up as a franchisee or franchisor, some of these are more preferred than others. As you see, there is the sole proprietorship there. At SCORE, we don't recommend that at all because that is not a entity that we recommend you have as your business, because it's going to not have any shield between you and the consuming public out there. Then the next one is partnership. Partnerships are very complex, and nevertheless, it's a form of business entity. The next one is the S corporation, subchapter S corporation. It's many businesses are actually formed under S corporation. The next one is C corporation. These are taxation considerations, the difference between a S and C in terms of taxes, and also how many different people you can have engaged in your company in terms of shareholders. When you have a S corporation, it's limited to 100 shareholders. And if you're going to have more, then you're going to need a C corporation. And then the LLC, the limited liability company, which will require lesser, what's called the corporate formalities than the S corporation and the C corporation. And there is other forms too. So go through these, consider them, review it with your consultant, your CPA, and your attorney to determine what's the best form of entity for you to move forward to the next level. Next slide, please. Some of the challenges facing franchising world and its business model today. The joint employer is number one challenge, is a major challenge to franchising because the National Labor Relations Board and the federal government and the state of California want to move to hold the franchisor equally responsible for the acts of its franchisees in terms of employee management. Then you have these various Assembly Bills 257, Assembly Bill 5, and Assembly Bill 1228. We won't get too deep into these. We'd be glad to answer them individually, but you can look them up. And these all challenges to franchising. And of course, the Federal Trade Commission that is creating continued challenges to franchising and its business model. Don't want to be talking negative about franchising. I live it every day, but these are the components and the dynamics that we have to face and deal with. It's just these are business challenges, and we'll face them as we need to. But for your information, you can look it up on the web and perhaps contact us for clarity if necessary. Thank you. Next slide, please. Now, as we said at the beginning, this presentation was provided by SCORE mentors to be used as a guide, limited only as to a general review. Although if information is provided is deemed to be given from reliable resources, you should always consult with a professional for legal, consulting, and accounting questions that you may have. And next slide, please. So I turn it over to Christina now, and then we'll be open for your questions, if any.
Thank you very much, Ali, for that great presentation. If anybody has questions, like Ali mentioned, please put them in the chat during these last few slides here. On this slide, we're going to send you the presentation, and these are all links. You can Click on these if you want to do your business model canvas, financial projection template. We have tons of other resources here for you, marketing plan, your SWOT analysis. So as I mentioned, these are all hyperlinks and it'll be sent over to you. And if you have any questions, it would be great for you to request a SCORE Mentor. A SCORE Mentor is 100% free business advice from experienced mentors. If you just go to our website, score.org/find-mentor, you will enter your zip code and it will take you to a short form to fill out. We receive the form within seconds and get it assigned to a mentor immediately. So, you know, you're minutes away from your mentoring session. Before we get into the questions, I see a couple coming in. I'm just going to launch a quick exit poll. And let me launch that on your screen. We have 3 questions. We would like to know, was today's material and presentation what you expected? Do you have a better understanding of today's topic? And would you recommend SCORE to a friend? So I'll give you a few seconds to answer those. All right, thank you for taking the poll. I'll go ahead and share the results here for everyone. So everybody found today's material and presentation what they expected, and everybody has a better understanding of today's topic, and everyone will recommend SCORE to a friend. Thank you, everyone. And now we will get into the Q&A. Let me take down the screen. Hello, Peter.
Before you get into the questions, Ali, thank you so much for this information. It's a very complex question, but I think the clarity in buying or thinking about a franchise, I think the background and research is critical. The only advice I would give is to, if you're going to buy a franchise, at least get into a business that you have some knowledge of or passion about, because buying a franchise is not just about making money, but it has to be the right franchise for you too. So buying a moneymaker is not always the best thing to do, but buy something that fits your passion and something that you would like to do. Do you have any questions in the queue there, Christina?
I have one, Peter. Somebody just asked if they can get a copy of the slides. Yes, you will receive a copy of the slides and a link to the recording. We also post our webinars on YouTube, so I'll be sure to send out the link to our YouTube page, and you can catch up on any of those previous recordings that you may have missed.
That's actually a good question, because these webinars is in short duration, but it's full of information. And we post those in these we call our library and our website that Christina just mentioned, where you can go back and watch these over and over again. And do you have any other questions in the queue, Christina?
No, so far no.
Okay. Overall, around the country, Ali, where do you see the franchise business? Of course, it really depends on what it is, if it's a food industry or product or a service industry and that sort of thing. But I see a lot of the food portion of that has increased a little bit. It hasn't really skyrocketed, but there is seems like a steady increase along the way. Do you have any comments about that and the growth in that section?
Yes, not only Pete, not only in the food segment, but also as I mentioned to the folks in senior care is gaining momentum quite rapidly. Child care is gaining momentum, their numbers from the way we gauge it, 5-year intervals is increased, and many home-based businesses of various types. But the biggest gainers are senior care and food, which you mentioned. Mhm.
Yeah, and it just seems like people are still eating out, and I know just in the Fresno area, there's over 50 restaurants that opened in the Fresno area. I was surprised that many.
Some of them should be franchised.
Yeah, exactly.
I
But,
have a good question here.
Okay,
Pending, okay. Okay, someone would like to know, are there grants to start a franchise? And where can we find that type of information?
I am not aware of grants. Pete, this is Pete's side of the thing. I only help with disclosure preparations and administrative aspect of things. Pete is pretty versed on the financing, so I defer to Pete on that.
yeah, the answer to that question is no. Grants are for research and development. Grants are for nonprofits, for startups. There are some grants available out there, depending what it is. But if you're starting a franchise, more than likely you'll fall into the category of an SBA guaranteed loan. And any bank that's doing SBA loans can help you out. And for franchises, it comes under what they call a 7A loan category. And it'll come with it's not 100% financing, but it is a guarantee. And based on your credit score and so forth. And they're doing quite a few of those right now. And I would, in most financing, I would say they're fairly easy until you start processing. So I thought you said it was easy. Well, there's a lot of paperwork. So nothing's easy, but they will require a lot of paperwork and information from you. Ask your score counselor to do that. You will need a business plan and you will need financial projections. And most franchises will have the financials for you and the profitability, which you will need when you make the application. But grants for franchises are if you find one, let me know. I haven't seen one in the years I've been in business, and I'm on several loan committees, and that question comes up all the time.
But just to add to what Pete mentioned, there are some franchisees that have got grants through certain venues, like Hispanic Chamber or what have you, different towns and so on. But as Pete said, they're not prevalent. Basically, if you are going to start a business, you're going to go for a 7A loan or something like that. And you can contact Pete regarding that, because he's definitely the subject matter expert on that stuff.
No other questions?
Do we have any exciting workshops coming up there, Christina?
Oh, yes, we sure do. So let me take a quick look at the calendar here. This Thursday, actually, we have simple steps for starting your business coming up. This Friday, we have our Ask Score Fridays, why a strong business brand matters and how to build one. And then next Tuesday, we have the Understanding Financial Statements with Bill Oakes.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
And on the 13th, we'll have Essential Employee Handbooks.
That's another good one. Yeah, yeah. Okay, excellent. And we'll send everybody that information. And Ali, thank you so much for taking time out of your day today.
Thank you,
attendees, and good luck in your venture. And we are here to help. Just let us know. Thank you.
Thank you.